Hello and welcome to the Streamline and Shine podcast. My name is Steff Bolton and I'm 1/3 of Bolton Virtual Solutions, a team made up of me, Mum, and my two daughters, Sam and Amy. Our family virtual assistant agency's absolute passion is helping time-poor female entrepreneurs with those ridiculously long to-do lists, because we all know how they get longer instead of shorter, so that they're able to focus on doing what they love. You're going to want to stick around if you find yourself constantly just doing this thing quickly instead of spending time with your family, or if you look at your list of tasks and feel like crying, or even if you're just simply wondering how to manage your time better and delegate to your team. We're going to be covering topics from social media to marketing, systems and processes to outsourcing, and so much more, so that you can see what's possible for you and your business. So let's get stuck in. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Streamline and Shine podcast. And today we are joined by an absolutely amazing lady, Zoe Thompson, who is a leadership and performance coach. And she's on the podcast today to answer my questions about her journey as a business owner and how she's made things happen so that she's able to work smarter and not harder. So welcome, Zoe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. I'm excited for this one. So, right. So we're going to get stuck straight in. So my first question is, we're going to come to your backstory shortly. So we're going to do it a bit back to front. But tell us about your business now.
Okay, so my business now, as you said with the introduction, is leadership and performance coaching. So I talk to my clients about success feeling as good as it looks. So for me, like performance success, it needs to feel as good as it looks. It's not just having a shiny Instagram and having the lifestyle that goes with success. It's being able to work in the way that you want to work with the clients that you want to work with. So a lot of the people that I work with, in particular one-to-one clients, they're very successful on paper. And often that's what they say, like really successful on paper, but it's just not how I wanted it to be. And there's almost a resentment for what they've worked really hard for. So like, business owners, you think you work really hard to build a business and then get to that point where potentially you start resenting it because it's consuming all your time and your energy and you don't have time for your hobbies and you've got family or friends that are on at you because your laptop is open until 10, 11 o'clock at night and all of those things. So a lot of it is around success feeling as good as it looks. So I work in organizations as well, and that's more around being more efficient, being more effective as a leader. So that helps them to get their life back in the process. So whether it's individuals or corporate, the key mission is still the same. And a lot of it is around performance habits and behaviors to be more efficient, to be more effective, so that you get life back and you can be really successful, but also still have holidays, still have hobbies, still have some time in the evening and not be glued to work all the time.
Yeah, and that's what I think, that's the dream for a lot of business owners, isn't it? Is to be able to work when you want, where you want, but also have like a better work-life balance. So,
Yes.
Like time freedom is something that comes up massively for our clients.
Yeah.
And obviously the work that we do is going to help towards that. But like you say, if you're not making the right decisions and working more effectively and efficiently, then that's not going to work.
No, and I think in the early days of a business, I think we all understand that that's what we're signing up to. It is going to be long hours. It is a bit of a graft because there's that tipping point, isn't there, where there's, I think where people bring people like yourselves in, there's a tipping point a little bit before that, where you're at that point where everything needs to be done and you're busy with clients, things are really picking up, things are going really well, and at that stage you probably really should start outsourcing, but there's a bit of a fear in there of that commitment of bringing somebody else in or asking somebody else to get involved. And I think actually most people say, don't they, they should bring in VAs way earlier than I think all of us say with the benefit of hindsight, we would do it a lot earlier.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think, there is a hustle and grind mentality, especially when it's new, because you have to be in it and you have to live and breathe it. And I hear people say you have to be obsessive about it to a point to make it work. And then it gets to that point. I think even though you're in that beginning stage and there is the hustle and the grind and that commitment and that discipline, you need to have that bigger picture of what you're working towards and what it will look like eventually. So one of the things that I did right from day one was making that decision that work would fit around life and not the other way around. So I have no issue in doing long days. I have no issue in working a lot of hours. I have no issue in showing up and doing what needs to be done. However, the first thing that goes into my calendar is time with family, time with friends, time at basketball, and time in the gym. So even though I might work long hours, I'm still doing everything else that I want to do. And that gets committed first. And then work fits in around it. So if I'm picking my laptop and my laptop is open at 8 o'clock at night, it's because probably already been to the gym in the morning and I've probably had an hour catching up with people at lunchtime, and I'm working at 8 o'clock in the evening because I didn't work very much this morning. So that's the balance for me, but it's making sure that you've got that bigger picture for the future mapped in, that okay, this is what it looks like now, but this is what we're working towards, rather than setting up those habits and behaviors that eventually become very patterned and are very hard to let go of. So it's making sure we've got that future picture in mind.
Yeah, I love that. I do love that. So, okay, so when did you start your own business and were you doing something different?
Hugely different. So my background is in the police. So I worked for the police for 20 years. My role was made redundant in 2017. So at that point, I was in a senior leadership role. I also had a secondary role as a self-development trainer, and I was coaching and mentoring because I was female police staff in a senior leadership position. So I was coaching and mentoring other people coming up through the organisation who wanted that additional support. So when my role was made redundant, I was like, okay, I've been there 20 years. I was 18 when I started, never worked for anyone else. In my mind, starting a business was the easier option than going through a recruitment process for a leadership role elsewhere. I do say I think my naivety probably was a benefit because I think if I'd known then what I know now, I might have made a different decision. But actually, I think probably if you speak to people that I worked with in the police, they'll probably tell you that I was probably always designed as somebody to work on their own, make their own decisions and do their own thing. I certainly wouldn't be employable now, that's for sure. Absolute nightmare, and I was difficult enough as it was, I think. But I think for me it was taking all of the best bits about all of the things that I'd done across the years. I loved leadership, not so much the responsibility. It was more about working with people, seeing their potential, working with them, succession planning and training and development. I love that side of things. So took all of the best bits and created the business. And that was, just over 8 years ago.
Crazy how quickly time goes as well, isn't it? So you've had a pandemic right in the middle of that too.
Did. And actually the pandemic was financially was my most successful year.
Yeah, because everyone was, a lot of people were moving to different industries. So many people started their own business, including me. Although I was still employed, I started my business when I was furloughed, so I was rather bored. And I was like, you know what, I need a side hustle. I'm going to end up starting my own business, and here we are. But yeah, it's weird to think that it was 5 years ago, because part of it seems like it was ages ago,
and then the rest of it seems like it was last week. It's a really strange time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a strange. I mean, it was a strange time. I mean, I was already online.
Yeah.
So when I started the business in 2017, one of the things was for work to fit around life, not the other way around. But also the other thing that I was very determined to do, so also non-negotiable for me, was to have a business where I could travel and would be able to work abroad. So, like I said, I was 18 when I started for the police. I never did a gap year, never did the whole traveling thing. I had my son when I was in my early 20s, and I was like, okay, so he's going to be in his 20s soon, which gives me a little bit of freedom. So I want to be able to travel and do my own thing. So I was already online. So this was back in the days where you had to explain what video calls were, and nobody had a Zoom link. And so when COVID happened, I didn't need to do anything. Everything was already set up and good to go. And actually, what my clients at that time needed was for me to not make any changes, which kind of killed me, because having come from the police, I found that running the business, especially in those early days, was so repetitive. You know, you have to keep doing the same things over and over and over again until it starts to work and till it starts to make a difference. So when COVID happened, I felt like that could have been me in my element. You know, it was chaos and disruption, and it was all lots of unknown, which that was my strength in my policing days, you know, being able to deal with the unexpected, and I couldn't do anything. And all I could see every time I logged into LinkedIn, everyone was pivoting and people were creating new things. And I was like, okay, I've already got an online course. I'm already running an online program. I've already got online clients. There's nothing, I've already done it. And it killed me not being able to get involved in what everybody else was doing. But it was very successful in the fact that I had that credibility, you know, where people were showing up and announcing that they were starting a coaching business. I had that background where I'd already had a couple of years where I had that credibility, it already existed. And so when people started to find it more of a challenge, or, you know, like you in furlough, like, okay, well, I'm bored, so what can I do? Oh, let me do some online training. And actually some companies were funding their staff to do some online training. People were saying, oh, speak to Zoe, she's got some stuff. And so it was, I'm not going to lie, it was great for me. And from, you know, I know a lot of people had some really, really tough times. I'm very, very grateful that actually family, friends, health, business, we're all okay. And my son was in college, so I didn't have to do the homeschooling either. I just had to make sure he was awake. That was it. That was as far as my responsibilities went, was just going in, and he'd be lying in bed with the laptop on his chest. I'm like, dude, you're awake?
Not really.
Thankfully, I did not have to juggle and do the homeschooling. So it was a good time.
So I had one at high school. My eldest had left school by the time that came. I had one in high school, and their schooling was absolutely shocking during lockdown. And then I had one in year 5, I think, but she loved the homeschooling. Like, she's always wanted to learn. She's really curious and inquisitive. So her Google Classrooms, she was always sat in the living room while I was working on my business. She was sat there chatting to her schoolmates and having her lessons, and she was perfectly happy. So I didn't have to do much either, but I was finding loads of extra bits to do, because I don't know if you saw them, because obviously your son was older, but there were loads of Facebook groups created, and there was like people who worked in zoos doing walk-arounds and like on video showing the kids how to muck out an elephant, or, you know, like all sorts of stuff like that. There was even a giraffe giving birth on one of the live feeds, and she loved it. She was all over it. She absolutely loved every minute of stuff like that. So there are all these different things coming out that no one had really thought of doing before. So it was good for things like that.
Yeah, that's very cool. I think I heard about some of that animal related. So my sisters 3 were young, and she's a primary school teacher, so she was juggling teaching and homeschooling. So
not fun.
No, I was quite glad to sit that bit out.
Yeah. Joys of being a teacher, I suppose,
Oh, not for me. Not for me.
Okay,
One
so
and done, not a class of 35. No chance. Absolutely not.
and there's me with 3 girls. Like, how I'm not bald, I don't know. Okay, so what made you realise that obviously you were in like a leadership role in the police, and you were like training people and all of that kind of stuff. So what made you realise that you loved it enough to turn it into a business of your own? What is it about like learning and development?
I think it's the realization of potential. But I think certainly conversations I have with people is we need to be really careful around what we see as someone's potential and what they see as someone's potential. So I think for me, I think one of the things that I loved about being in a leadership role was sitting and having conversations with people. Okay, what do you want? Like, what do you want to do? Where do you see yourself going? What's most important to you? And then supporting them with that training and development. And I think there's an element in a lot of people's journeys where there's a moment where people think, oh, could I do that? And then it kind of sows that seed, and then they do some training, or they're mentored, or they go and do an attachment somewhere, and then they come back and they're like, oh, I think I can do that. And then roll the clock forward a little bit more, and they come in, and it's that energy where it's like, I've done that. When they've got that job, or they've got that extra role, or they've achieved that thing. And I think it's a real privilege to be involved in something like that. And I love that about the work that I do. Regardless of what position people are in, I think certainly in the work that I do now, it's a very different realization. It's more of a realization of actually I can have that. Things can be different. And when you get that first taster of, oh, actually I can log off and nothing bad happen, and I've got a client at the moment, and the first time I spoke to them, they must have answered their phone about 6 times in the first 10 minutes. And it was like, okay, you're paying me for this time, so let's turn because they're not paying to speak to you, so let's turn the phones off. Let's see if we can get through the session without it. And a lot of it was that fear of, they need me. I'm integral to the success of this business. I have to be available. I have to be accessible. And last week they dialed into the session, and their phone rang. They didn't even ask who it was or what they wanted. So I'm in a meeting, I'll call you back, and hung up. So,
amazing.
what just happened?
Yeah.
Talk me through what just happened.
Who are you and what have you done with my client?
Exactly. What is going on? And then they said, I've just spent 2 days fishing in my tent and handed everything over to somebody in the business to look after it while I was gone. I was like, what? So, and this was a hobby that they'd had years ago that, they'd kind of dropped off as the business had grown. And I think it's a very different excitement now. But I think there's something about people who are making things happen for the life that they want. And I think that's really important. So whether I'm working with, because I do some work with young people as well, which is more around self-leadership rather than the full leadership. And I think just, that moment where people think, yeah, I can have a life like that, or yeah, I can do that stuff. I think it's a real privilege to be involved in that, and that element of asking questions that you can see when people go, oh, I hadn't thought of it like that.
Yeah.
And then you just see the light goes on and they're off. It's just that one question.
Yeah.
The right question at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I kind of understand that. I kind of understand that though, like the sense of achievement that you're involved in, because I used to work in learning and development before I worked in my full-time job. I had a part-time job at Sainsbury's, so I worked in HR, and I was a store trainer, and I would train the people who had just got their jobs, so do their inductions, then I would do their checkout training, and I'd train them on machinery, and then eventually it would become training them to become a team leader. Then they'd become a department manager. Then they'd become a deputy manager, and I even ended up training store managers. So seeing people go across that whole journey and knowing that you've played a part in it is really satisfying, to know that you've helped someone build their career, basically.
I think especially when they don't see it yet. And you could do that. They're like, oh no, I couldn't do anything like that.
Yeah, that's scary. No thanks.
Do you know, I think you could. I think you'd be really good at that. And then just leaving it there. Because I think that's a key thing for me. I think sometimes we see the potential for others, they're not ready to see it. And I think there's that element of that's not my journey. I also don't know the bigger picture of what else is going on, or what else they want from life. It might not fit in with what is more important to them. And I think with career, it can be very easy, and we see this happen a lot, don't we, where you see the potential in somebody and they kind of get strongly encouraged to go down a particular route, and it's not what they want. It doesn't align with their values. It's not the mountain they want to climb. And that's, again, some of the clients that I work with is, they've ended up at the top of this mountain that they never set out to climb. It's just somebody went, oh, you'd be really good at that, off you go. And that's where they're at. And it's not the view they want, it's not the journey they're on, but they've worked really hard to get there, and a lot of people have encouraged them to get there. And it's like, okay, how do I get to that mountain, because that's the one I want to be on.
That's the sign that you should always listen to yourself before anyone else, I think, with your career. Definitely, massively. Okay, so I can't believe we're in the last quarter of 2025 now. So can you tell us what your big focus has been this year and why you chose it?
My focus this year, it's been an interesting couple of years, because going back to what we were talking about in COVID, a lot of work came my way in COVID that wasn't necessarily what I set out to do. So a lot, the business over the 8 years has been around self-development, leadership and self-leadership. When COVID happened, naturally, a lot of people were struggling or trying to work things through. And so it brought a lot of work my way, which was great. Like I said, it was my most successful year in business. It was bringing me a lot of work that wasn't really what I set out to achieve. So, like just what we were just talking about, I was at the top of a mountain, but it wasn't the mountain that I wanted to be at. And so kind of needed to come down from that mountain and just say, okay, right, what is it I want? What do I want the business to look like? What kind of work do I want to do? So this year was really about kind of really stepping into that with 2 feet, because it was so hard to let other elements go, because it was what created success. So this year was all about, okay, with 2 feet, say it with your chest, this is what you're doing, and really just kind of niching down into the specifics of, this is what I do, this is who I work with, this is their problems and pains, and this is their aspirations, and this is the journey I take them on. And it's been great. It's been a little bit scary at times, because it's been, I think it would be fair to say that my work in the police means that I can work with anybody, and when you're coaching the person and not the problem, it makes it very easy to talk about, I can coach anyone with anything, because that's what coaching does. But from a business perspective, it needs to be very specific to be able to know, for people to know that it's them that I'm talking to. So I had lots of corporate work opportunities, which has been great, and lots more people coming my way. But I've also launched a new program, which has been great. And again, this is the difference between learning and development, isn't it? Where you have to deliver somebody else's program. Although I know some are very fortunate to be able to create that content too. But yeah, I've really enjoyed running the program, and so we've run that a couple of we. Why do we still say we when you are a sole trader? Me, myself, and I, the collective team.
Royal we.
The royal we. So it's been delivered a couple of times, tweaked it a little bit. So delivered it with individuals, then the group, tweaked it as it's gone, and really enjoying that. So yeah, it's been a good year. And so I feel now, going into this final quarter, things are really solid now, and now I can get to that next start pushing for that next level again now, because I
Yeah.
know I'm on the right mountain this time.
Exciting. Can't wait.
Yeah, I'm just very impatient though, so I kind of want the lift that takes me up to the top. And I'm like, I need to do all
No
of that.
cheating. If there was
Just
a
get me
lift,
up
it would be
there.
rammed full of all of us, wouldn't it?
That's very true. And I think also, they say, it's important to enjoy the journey, and that's all part of the
Enjoy the
process as well,
ride and
isn't
learn
it?
as you go, learn from your mistakes and all of
For
that kind of
sure.
thing. Yeah.
And the last couple of years, it feels like, I call it a detour. What did somebody described it as an unexpected expedition, or like a little side quest. And it's given me more tools in the toolbox that means that when I work with business owners rather than leaders in corporate, although the challenges are still the same, it means I'm also much more aware and understanding of the challenges of a business owner. So it means I can, I understand challenges as a leader in a working world, but also now understand the challenges of a business owner in that world as well. So it may not have got me where I thought it was going to get me. I've come back in and back onto the path that I was already on.
Yeah. So, what is the big, huge, massive, gigantic dream for you? And you can't say win the lottery and go and live in Cyprus.
Well, see, I don't really do that.
Okay.
I don't have 5-year goals. I don't have 10-year goals.
But if you got
I go against the grain a little bit. The dream would be, it does involve travel.
Yeah.
I'm not going to win the lottery because I don't buy a ticket, so I've completely set myself up for failure there. But I don't see myself living anywhere else permanently, but I do see myself traveling. So certainly the next couple of years, I'd like to be able to go and travel to different places for like a month, 2 months, and then come back again. So work is great, and work is at that place where it's successful enough to tick all of the boxes, but it's not so far the other way that it's all consuming and I'm not doing all of the things that I love to do, which is a great place to be. I think it also has a potential to be a very limiting place to be, because it's like, okay, things are really good. If I do this, will it disrupt it?
Just tip it over the edge.
But I know myself well enough to know that I'll get bored with that. So I reckon ask me again in 6 months and it'll be, Steff, I'm doing this now.
Change my mind 3 times.
Yeah, I was so happy in October. That was all great. And then it got to December. I'm like, bored now, or I just kind of push into that next level. So I am enjoying it where it is until I'm not, and then I'll do something different.
Yeah, you sound like me with my hair in a weird way. So I'm always changing my hair. I'll have it long. I had it quite long, not long ago. I went last week. I made her chop it into a long bob. I've gone blonde since, I don't know, June, maybe May. I've just decided that I'm going to go dark again. So, it's
seasonal.
Yeah. I just like to keep myself on my toes with my hair.
I don't blame you at all. I think there's a lot of pressure sometimes, isn't there, is to kind of really, I think as business owners, it's good to have goals and know what it is that you're doing and where you're heading. I think personally, for me, I've never really had a 5 or 10-year plan. And so I get opportunities. I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Let me go and do that, because it doesn't take me off plan, because there is no plan. But I think from a business perspective, plans and goals are good. And I think people worry about setting them too clear because they worry about not reaching them.
Yeah. But I think also at the end of the day, it's ultimately your business. So it's entirely up to you whether you plan or set goals or you don't. Like, there's no law that says you must have a 5-year plan. I don't think I've ever written out a 5-year plan. I can tell you where I'd like to be in 5 years, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily a plan. It's just what I would like to happen. Like, sometimes I think, I met someone at a networking group a few months back now, and we were talking about after we'd done some goal setting, if we hadn't reached them, how did we feel? And obviously we felt disappointed, frustrated, blah, blah, blah. And someone said, that is the exact reason I don't set goals, because I feel like I'm setting myself up for disappointment if I don't reach them. So I understand why people don't bother to set goals. I do get it. But also, like you say, it leaves you open to extra stuff that you might not be able to say yes to otherwise.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's good to know where you're going. It's good to have some direction. It's good to know what's important, and it's good to know some little mini goals, little milestones, things that you want to achieve, and have a set of kind of clear tasks and activities of what I need to do to make that happen. Otherwise, it's very hard, isn't it? You just sit at the desk and you're like, oh, what should I do today? Let me see what emails I've got. And you're working in a way that accommodates everybody else and doesn't necessarily show up for what's important to you. So I think it's important to have certain things in place, but some people like the structure and the routine and the knowing and it all planned out, and some people don't. And there's no right or wrong. It's just whatever helps you to show up and have that high performance for you. Like, if it don't work for anyone else, don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I'm pretty sure you're actually the first person who's had an interview with me that has said they have no goal. Like, like no plan, rather. So yeah, it's quite interesting to hear though, because like hearing your reasoning behind it, it makes sense. So,
which, considering I am a performance coach, may well surprise people. I have very clear. I can tell you what I'm doing. I can tell you what is on the list of things to do. I can tell you what tasks I'm going to be doing in a month's time, in 2 months' time, to achieve what I've set out to achieve. The big, wide, hairy, scary goals of this is my income and this would be number of clients, a little bit more. And like, this is life. I definitely don't have a plan for life, but business a little bit clearer on, but not in the same way that a lot of people would talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you say is the importance of having like a circle of other business owners around you as a business owner? So some people refer to it as biz besties or finding your tribe or whatever you want to call it. But what would you say is the importance of that?
I think you need people around to learn from, because business is changing all the time. So you do need to be around other people that can keep you informed. I think you do need people around you to bounce things around. I don't know that you need a full circle of business besties. I'm an introvert. I'm very happy working on my own. I have people that I go to and that I bounce things around with. I personally, which is weird because in the police it was always a team. You always had a team around you. You always had people around you. I find, actually, I'll be totally honest with you, I find a lot of networking I haven't quite found that group no, that's not true. I have found groups, but I find that a lot of the groups I don't particularly gel with. I struggle with women only networking and groups because I feel it misses a whole dynamic. And actually, my background is much more male dominated and like in terms of where I'm comfortable. So I find a lot of women-only networking not really for me. Although I've met some great individuals, the setup is not for me. The coach that I'm working with at the moment has a community around that. It's a very mixed, a much more mixed group that I find much better, like in terms of just hearing that diversity of ideas and businesses and things like that. So I think it is just very, very individual. I think you know what you need. If you're a person that likes people around you, you like support, you like to have people to check in with. Like if you need it for accountability or you need it for that support and guidance. But I think you need to find the group that you feel at home in.
Mm.
Or you find a group that challenges you to be better.
Yes.
And they could be two different groups.
Oh yeah, definitely. So
I haven't found a group that I am at home in, but I have found a group that challenges me to be better. So that feels like a good investment of my time and energy.
Yeah. And I think, like, I mean, I run networking sessions for a group, and we rave and shout about the fact that we're inclusive of everyone and accessible for everyone. So most of the meetings are online. If we do an in-person one, it's accessible. So if you've got a wheelchair or you want to bring your baby along in a pushchair, you can get in, you know. So, and actually last week when I ran my first in-person event, a lady came who has a leg in a brace permanently, and everything was fine except when she got out of her car, the car park was uneven, and she told me, so I obviously need to make sure that that place either isn't used again, or I tell them to park nearer the door, or, you know, just to try and avoid that. But I ran a networking session this morning and we had a guy on there, which was really nice. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother me either way. I'm part of a local networking group which is just ladies, but they're a fantastic group, and there's such a diverse bunch of business owners. Like there's cake decorators in there, and I don't need help from that, but it's interesting to listen to what goes on in her business and her world. But I do agree with you that when you network, reaching people or being in a room with people who are, I hate saying at a higher level than you, because that kind of makes you feel a bit inferior, but just people, like you say, who are going to push you out of your comfort zone, are going to push you to go one step further than you thought you could, and, you know, just to encourage you a bit more, because they're the proof that it can happen. So
and then, you know, let's face it, not all of us have got aspirations of being a 10-figure business owner and having a Lamborghini and a Gucci handbag or whatever it is, because I'm not in for end like that. None of that appeals to me at all. But my coach is, oh my God, Steff, he's 15 years younger. So like I did it, but he thinks differently. He's in different circles. So he is not in, because I think the business world can be quite cliquey when you find certain groups, and he's not in any of those circles.
Right.
You know, he's in very different circles. The people that his people check in with, that his people check in with, that their people check in with, is another avenue of people that think differently. So I went to him because he's younger, because he's got a different way of thinking, because he's got a different way of doing things. He's probably been, I think he's been in business the same amount of time as me, which means he probably started in his teens, but still successful, you know, and I wanted a different way of thinking. I don't want to sit in, I challenged myself this year to not sit in a room with people who think like me and who run a business like mine, because there's not as much learning there. So I've met some great people.
Like that age difference with you and your coach, like the way he thinks about marketing is going to be completely different and more modern to how we would think of it. So even though so computers came out when I was at high school, okay, I'm that old. My kids always take the piss out of me for that.
I started working for the police the year before Google was invented. So when I talk about having to learn the laws, the legislation, everything that the public expected me to know, I couldn't even Google it. I had to look through big encyclopedias or run around and find an old dude in the station that would know.
He's been here since before the war. Let me ask him.
Exactly.
Okay, so I have absolutely loved this conversation. I could sit here and talk for hours listening to you and just chatting about this kind of stuff, because I think we think a bit differently, actually. Like, you know, you do what you do and I do what I do, but I do like chatting with people, like you say, who are just Yeah, and on a different path kind of thing. I always find it fascinating. But anyway, before we go, please can you tell everyone where they can find you, and if you've got a current offer for them that you would like to talk about, then please do.
Okay, so you can find me on all of the socials bar Twitter/X, not on there. So it's zoethompson.uk, nice and easy. In terms of offering, so I've got a framework that I use with my clients. It's my PIPS framework.
Which is fantastic.
Thank you, which I know we've talked about. So there's 5 pillars. They all weave in together. And as a business owner, I mean, it works for anything, but as a business owner, it gives you that kind of 5-pillar checklist to make sure everything weaves in together. I've got that as a free training, and I also offer a free call to help people to implement it. So I, as you can tell, am always open for having a chat. So if people want to download it, watch the training video, and then if they want to book in a call, I will see how we can help them to implement it in their business or in life, if that works too.
Yeah. Okay. So everything that you need to go and find Zoe and find out more about the PIPS framework will be in the show notes. So thank you again for joining me today, Zoe. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Loved it. I love these conversations. And you're right, we could go on for hours.
Yeah, I know, it's quite scary, isn't it? So many people say this, like, oh, I could talk to you for hours. I'm like, yeah, but neither of us have time for that.
No, we've got work to do.
Right, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Streamline and Shine. If you have questions on what we covered inside, please feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at Bolton_virtual_solutions, or you can email us at teambolton@boltonvirtualsolutions.co.uk. We absolutely love hearing from our amazing community and are always here to support you. If you'd like to be interviewed on a future episode, please drop us an email letting us know which topic you'd like to speak about, and we'll get back to you. See you on the next episode, lovelies.